Elizabeth, a literary princess. If you are new here, welcome. I am a fifth-year PhD candidate in English literature with a focus on Victorian women novelists. And as you might expect, I love to read. Today I have my March wrap-up for you. And I read 8 books in March. And I don't know how I did it because by the halfway point of March, I had only read one book. Like finished one book. I was in the middle of multiple others. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna get to finish like 3 books, much less 8. So I really came through in the second half of the month. So let's jump in. The first book that I have is Dear Committee Members by Julie Schumacher. This is a satire of academia, and it's amazing. It follows Jason Ficker, who is a poetry or just creative writing? I don't quite remember. Definitely creative writing professor at Payne University. And this is told, it's an epistolary novel told in letters of recommendation that he has to write for people, for students, for other faculty members who are up for tenure or doing whatever. And it's hysterical. He just gets progressively more and more frustrated with the whole system of the university. He is trying to get funding for one of his students who is working on a novel that he just truly, truly believes in, and he just can't get this kid funding. He has his ex-wife working at the law school and then an ex-girlfriend working somewhere else on the campus, and it's causing all kinds of problems. So we get to learn what happened with these two relationships kind of as we go through these letters. English department shares a building with the economics department. The economics floor is being renovated while the English floor is not, and there are grievances. And it is just hilarious, absolutely hysterical. I had so much fun with it, but it also, like, it's not just funny. There's also some really deep stuff that happens, and it also has quite a bit to say about academia as an institution. I ended up giving this 5 stars. I thought it was fantastic, and I'm so glad I picked it up. And it's super short. It was a really easy read. I think I read it in 1 or 2 days, and it was just a wonderful time. And so that was the one book that I had read by the middle of the month. And then after that, I started finishing things. And I guess you'll see part of why I was not finishing many books with this next one. So in March, I was participating in March of the Mammoths, which coincided perfectly with my next read for the George Eliot Project, in which I am reading George Eliot's fiction in publication order. And this was Middlemarch. She's chunky. She's over 800 pages. Yes, I call her a she. So this was a reread for me, and I have, if you've been here for a while, you know that I call this book my nemesis. And I can't call it that anymore. I actually really enjoyed it this time around. I'm not going to say a whole lot because I will be filming an entire video, but this is really the story of 3 couples all living in or around the town of Middlemarch. And their stories of how they get together and how those relationships work out, set against the backdrop of political reform and medical reform. There's no real main character, but I guess if you wanted to say main character is Dorothea Brooke, who marries a man twice her age, thinking that she will be helping him with this great academic work and that through him she can do something great, and it doesn't work out as how she wanted it to. We also have Dr. Lydgate, who is a new doctor to the town who really dreams of medical reform, and he is trying, but the people of Middlemarch are kind of adverse to his new practices, and he ends up becoming involved with Rosamund Vincy, a young woman from town who dreams of kind of a higher station in life. And then we have Rosamund's brother, Fred Vincy, who is a hot mess, and his childhood sweetheart, Mary Garth, who is the best character ever, and loves the guy, but is like, you need to get your shit together. So yes, I did really enjoy this. I gave it 4 stars this time, which it moved up from 3 stars to 4 stars. Next up is a book that I have had on my physical TBR for a really long time, and I finally was like, you know what? We're reading it. This is We Ride Upon Sticks by Quan Berry. So I originally picked this up because it is set in Danvers, Massachusetts, which is right by my hometown. And I was like, oh, Danvers. And it takes place in 1989 and follows the Danvers High School field hockey team, which is made up of, I think, 10 girls and 1 boy. And they have been losing spectacularly their whole high school careers. And they decide, you know what, we're not going to lose anymore. So one of them had found a book in the library about the Salem witch trials. And they decide that they are going to use dark forces and witchcraft to win their field hockey season. It's hilarious. It's so much fun. Because I'm from the area, I knew everything. So there's a little map at the beginning that has all the towns in the area, and I know all the towns, I know all the landmarks it's talking about. It's super fun. But more than that, it's just such a great story of coming of age, but also of friendships and these relationships between all the teammates. And I adored it so much. It is told in first person plural, so it's always we did this. And then it'll talk about the individual team members in third person. So when they're talking about Mel, it's, oh, well, Mel went and did this. But then when there's more than one person involved, it's we. And I just really, really adored this. I highly, highly recommend. It is, I don't really know what genre it is. I guess like historical fiction technically, because it's the 80s, but also it's 1989 and I was born like 3 years later. So I'm like, is it really historical fiction? I don't know. But it's a coming of age story. It's not really young adult. I would say it's an adult novel, although teenagers would probably enjoy it. And it's just so fun. I had such a great time with this. The next book is one that I actually started for Feb Regency, which is a readathon that takes place in February, focused on reading books from and about the Regency era. And whoa, I just hit the table. This is Sister Novelists, the trailblazing Porter sisters who paved the way for Austen and the Brontes by Devani Lucer. And this is my favorite book of the year so far. So, as you might expect, it's 5 stars. This is a literary biography of the 2 novelists, Jane and Anna Maria Porter, who I had never heard of, but now I'm obsessed with them, and I cannot wait to read their books. This is just such a great piece of nonfiction. It draws you in, it makes you feel like you know the characters. It's just absolutely lovely. And I highly, highly, highly recommend this to anybody who enjoys literary biographies or just biographies in general. It is so great. Lucer draws heavily from the letters between the sisters and other people, so we get their voices. And I learned so much about the period. They knew so many different people and were involved in so many different things. I just loved it so, so much. It is my top book of the year at the moment. I'm like, what could come along to knock this off? Although I said that about Cecilia too, which is my second book of the year, which I also read for Feb Regency. But then this was just so amazing. Top tier nonfiction. Top tier. Next up is another short one that was my read for Fairy Tale Friday. Fairy Tale Friday is a feature where I talk about a fairy tale retelling and how it adapts the original tale, and I do it on Friday. You will actually be getting one about January's book this Friday, finally. So this for March was Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. Nice and short, loved it. This is a retelling of Sleeping Beauty. I am not going to say a whole lot about it because I will be doing an entire video on it. But this is told from the perspective of a changeling girl named Toadling who was taken by the fairies at her birth, and they left a changeling in her place. And she is guarding a castle or a tower and trying to make sure nobody gets into it. And then along comes a knight named something. I don't remember his name, and it's not on the flap, so, well. And he is looking for the tower, and it goes on from there. Like I said, very short, so even if I said a lot, it would be giving quite a bit away, and I will have a whole video on it. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. I have enjoyed everything I've read by Kingfisher so far, and I cannot wait to read more from her. Next up is another short one. This is actually a novella, and it is Hear the World Entire by Anwen Hayward. And this I have on ebook, and it is a retelling of the myth of Medusa. I think I came across it on Tumblr. I think the author posted something, and I was like, oh, I like, you know, supporting people who are writing and like self-publishing. So I bought it. It was inexpensive. And this was good. It's really beautifully written, and I think there were a lot of really interesting concepts. I ultimately gave it 3.5 stars. I think it just didn't feel long enough to fully flesh out everything that it was doing, but I did really like what she did with the myth. I'm not a huge Greek myth person, which probably seems really odd because I'm such a fairy tale person, and it's like, what is even the difference between a Greek myth and a fairy tale? I don't know, but I'm less into Greek mythology. Like, I enjoy it, and I read retellings of it every once in a while. I've read Percy Jackson. I think I've read a few others. And I've read some of the original stuff, like I've read the Iliad, I've read parts of the Odyssey, but it's not my favorite thing in the world. However, this is really gorgeously written, and if you're into Greek myth retellings, especially if you are interested in Medusa and seeing a new take on it, I think this is a really great one to check out. Next up is more Victorian literature. This is The Perpetual Curate by Margaret Oliphant. This is the fifth maybe work in the Chronicles of Carlingford. And it's actually the only one I had not read yet, so I'm finally done with the Chronicles of Carlingford. This follows a character who we have met in the earlier books, Frank Wentworth. He is the Perpetual Curate of St. Roch's, which means he has a church that he runs, but he does not have his own parish. And he has been given permission by the previous 2 rectors of Carlingford to work in the district of Wharfside, which is kind of a poorer district. And he has set up a church there, or a chapel. I don't really know what the difference between all these terms with the English, like, branches of Christianity. I don't know. It's kind of confusing. But the new rector of Carlingford, Mr. Morgan, is really not happy with Mr. Wentworth working within his parish without his permission. And then there's also a young girl named Rosa Elsworthy who goes missing, and Frank kind of gets entangled in that whole plot. So it is very similar to Salem Chapel in some ways, that it focuses on a clergyman and his involvement in this situation that kind of causes problems for him. I really enjoyed this a lot. I gave it 4 stars. I really like Frank Wentworth as a character, and I had gotten rather invested in his relationship with Lucy Wodehouse. We see them together for the first time in the short story The Rector, which is the second work in the series. And we also have the return of Mr. Proctor, the former rector of Carlingford, who is in love with Lucy's older sister, Mary. So I got to see the resolution to these two relationships, and I was really happy with that. And I just had a great time with this. Again, Oliphant's one of my favorite authors. And if you've been here for any length of time, you've heard me talk about her a lot. I just love her. So, great read. Excellent addition to the series. Not my favorite by her, but still really good. And then the final book is a library book, and it is another very short one. This is Mislaid in Parts Half Known by Shannon Maguire. This is the... I don't know how many in the Wayward Children series. 9th. It's the 9th book in the Wayward Children series. And so the the odd number books follow the main plot. And the even numbered books go back into the past. So this focuses on children who have been to portal worlds like Narnia or Wonderland and have now come back and are having trouble readjusting to their previous world. And there is a boarding school for children like this run by Miss Eleanor West. So the main plot that happens in the odd-numbered books takes place at the school. And we are following a group of children who have been to the portal worlds and all have their kind of trauma surrounding it. And this one is dealing with a character who we met in the previous book, Antoinette, or Antsy. And she had been to a world, I forget the name of it, but it's like the shop of lost things, basically. And it's kind of a nexus where doors from all different worlds will open up. And so she is now at the school, and she becomes involved with a group of kids who we've met in the previous books. And I can't really say too much else without spoiling like multiple books in the series, but I loved this one. I gave this 5 stars. I had a great reading month. So many 5-star reads. I really liked Antsy's story in the previous book, Lost in the Moment and Found, and I really loved the continuation of it here. Oh my god, the ending of this one was great. We get to see multiple worlds in this one. So one of the rules at Miss Eleanor's school is no quests, but this group keeps getting drawn into quests, and they get drawn into yet another quest. But so we go to 3 worlds, 2 of which we have never seen before, but 1 of which we had heard of. Actually, I think technically 2 of which we had heard of, but we've heard more about one than the other. And I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's really into this series and hasn't gotten to read it yet. But I loved it so much. I loved the resolution of Antsy's story. We get another resolution for another main character who has been going through some stuff for the last few books, and it was just great. I do also want to talk about one book that I DNF'd, and this is Spare by Prince Harry. It is Prince Harry's memoir. I was reading it on audiobook through Libby, narrated by Prince Harry himself. And at the beginning I was really interested and enjoying it. But I kind of got out of the mood for an audiobook, and then I tried to keep going with it, but I got up to the part about his deployment in Afghanistan. I just didn't care anymore. There was so much sand. Like, when it was dealing with the aftermath of Diana's death, I was really interested in that. But I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with Afghanistan. I got so uninterested at that point that I was like, okay, I'm just gonna DNF it. I might come back to it another time, but for now, I'm gonna leave it alone. So, everything that I read in March, 8 books that I finished that, I mean, God, so many 5 stars. And if it wasn't a 5-star, it was a 4-star. And then there was the one 3.5-star that really could probably be rounded up to 4 stars. So this was a fantastic reading month, even though I did have 1 DNF, but that's fine. So let me know down in the comments below, have you read any of these? What did you think of them? Were you participating in March of the Mammoths? Did you finish your mammoth? What was it and what did you think? Please don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more of my bookish content. It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.